Imagine being able to transform the reality around you just with the power of your gaze, as if, by directing your attention, the world around you would adjust to your consciousness. This is the intriguing promise of the so-called observer effect, a phenomenon that many believe reaches its full potential when the third eye is awakened. But how far can we go with this power to shape reality? Get ready for an eye-opening exploration, where modern science and ancient knowledge come together to reveal the hidden power of human perception. Throughout human history, various spiritual traditions have mentioned the existence of a hidden eye within each of us, a gateway to higher dimensions of consciousness. This eye is known as the third eye, and its activation is believed to be linked to the ability to perceive realities beyond matter, access deep intuition, and even influence one's life experience. But what exactly is the third eye, and why has it been revered by so many different cultures? In Hinduism and Buddhism, the third eye is associated with the sixth chakra, called ajna, located between the eyebrows, right in the center of the forehead. According to these traditions, this energy center governs intuition, perception beyond physical senses, and connection with higher states of consciousness. It is depicted as a point of wisdom that, when activated, allows one to see the truth hidden behind the illusions of the physical world. In ancient Egypt, the concept of the third eye appears in the symbol of the Eye of Horus, an icon of protection and spiritual perception. For the Egyptians, this eye represented the ability to see beyond the veil of common reality and access divine knowledge. Interestingly, some scholars believe this symbol also bears an anatomical resemblance to the pineal gland, a small structure in the center of the brain that, according to modern research, has light-sensitive properties and may be related to the regulation of consciousness states. But the idea of the third eye isn't limited to just Eastern and Egyptian traditions. In the West, philosophers and mystics throughout the centuries spoke of a mind's eye, a point of higher perception that allowed for a deeper understanding of reality. Descartes, for example, considered the pineal gland the seat of the soul, suggesting that it played a fundamental role in the interaction between the physical and spiritual worlds. Looking at science, we find clues that suggest the third eye might not just be a spiritual metaphor. The pineal gland, located exactly where spiritual traditions place the ajna chakra, produces melatonin, a hormone that regulates sleep and is closely linked to states of consciousness. Furthermore, some research indicates that this gland may produce dimethyltryptamine, a compound known to generate visionary experiences and altered states of perception. Could the activation of the third eye be connected to a physiological process within the brain, allowing access to deeper levels of reality? But there's a crucial detail. Not everyone has this awakened perception. In most people, the third eye remains dormant, obscured by the overwhelming stimuli of modern life, limiting mental programming and a lack of connection to their own consciousness. However, those who learn to reactivate it report a range of changes in their perception, from heightened intuition to experiences of consciousness expansion that challenge traditional logic. If your perception directly influences the reality around you, as suggested by the observer effect, then activating the third eye could be the key to taking control of your experience and shaping the world according to your intention. Science and spirituality have always been seen as opposing fields. On one side, traditional physics argues that reality is objective and independent of consciousness. On the other, spiritual traditions have been claiming for millennia that the mind and spirit directly influence the world around us, but in recent decades something has started to shift. Discoveries in quantum mechanics have begun to reveal that the very act of observing alters reality, a concept that deeply resonates with spiritual teachings about conscious creation. The observer effect, one of the most intriguing phenomena in quantum physics, shows that consciousness plays a fundamental role in how matter behaves. In the famous double-slit experiment, light particles behave differently when observed, suggesting that the simple act of perceiving reality can modify its state. But what does this mean on a deeper level? For many scientists and scholars of spirituality, this discovery points to something revolutionary. Consciousness is not just a passive phenomenon, but an active force that interacts with the universe. This echoes what esoteric traditions have always claimed, that the human mind has the power to influence matter, and that the external world is, to a large extent, a reflection of our internal state. But there's a crucial point to consider. Not everything that's said about quantum physics and spirituality is based on scientific facts. Many concepts have been distorted to fit narratives that don't necessarily align with reality. That's why it's essential to differentiate between what quantum mechanics really suggests and the more mystical interpretations that have been built around it. Philosophers and scientists like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff have developed intriguing theories about how consciousness might emerge from quantum processes within the brain. They suggest that the human mind isn't disconnected from the universe, but is intrinsically tied to its fundamental laws. Their theory of orchestrated objective reduction, OR, posits that consciousness arises from quantum vibrations in the microtubules of brain cells, connecting us directly to the quantum fabric of the cosmos. But the examples don't stop there. Rupert Sheldrake, biologist and author of The Presence of the Past, proposes the theory of morphic fields, which suggests that consciousness and behavior are influenced by fields of information that transcend the individual. This idea echoes ancient spiritual concepts such as Akasha or the Akashic Record, which speak of a universal field of memory and knowledge. Another relevant name is physicist Amit Goswami, who in his book The Self-Aware Universe argues that consciousness is the foundation of all reality, not the other way around. He claims that quantum physics only makes sense if we consider consciousness as fundamental, and that the universe is, in essence, a network of possibilities that materialize through observation. These examples and many others show that the boundary between science and spirituality is thinner than we might think. In psychology, there's a principle similar to the observer effect, known as self-observation. This means that when you start paying attention to your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, something within you changes. Simply being aware of a mental pattern can modify it, and this is the foundation of many practices of self-knowledge and personal development. Imagine you're dealing with a negative habit, like procrastination. While you're on autopilot, putting off tasks and easily getting distracted, this behavior repeats itself without you even noticing. But the moment you begin to consciously observe yourself noticing when the urge to procrastinate arises, and analyzing the emotions behind it, something shifts. You're no longer just reacting unconsciously. Now you have the ability to intervene, choose a different path, and transform your behavior. This is the power of mindful attention. What you focus on expands. And this doesn't just apply to behaviors, but also to your beliefs and how you experience reality. If you believe the world is a hostile and unjust place, you'll unconsciously start noticing only events that confirm that view. On the other hand, if you train your mind to see opportunities and synchronicities, your perception will shift, and over time your reality will too. Scientific research on mindfulness and neuroplasticity supports this idea. Studies show that meditation and self-observation can literally change the structure of your brain, strengthening neural connections associated with mental clarity, emotional balance, and focus. This means that by observing your thoughts and consciously directing your attention, you're not just changing your perception of reality, you're altering your brain itself. But there's a crucial detail. The quality of your attention matters. In the double-slit experiment, the simple act of observing already alters the outcome. But in life, it's not enough to just passively observe, you need to observe with intention. And this is where the awakening of the third eye comes into play. The third eye, associated with intuition and expanded perception, is the channel through which you can take this conscious observation to a new level. When activated, it allows you to see beyond the illusions of the mind, recognize hidden patterns in your life, and access deeper states of consciousness. Now, how do you activate it? Many spiritual traditions claim that this awakening is a natural process, but one that requires intention, practice, and balance. The answer lies in our modern lifestyle. The overload of visual stimuli, the information overload, and the disconnection from introspection have made most people's third eye dormant. Additionally, physiological factors like the buildup of fluoride in the pineal gland can hinder its function. Therefore, awakening the third eye requires both a spiritual and a physical approach. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools for stimulating the third eye. One simple yet effective practice is the blue flame meditation. To do this, follow these steps. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths to relax. Direct your attention to the point between your eyebrows. Imagine a small blue flame shining in that spot. Visualize the flame pulsating and expanding its light, activating your inner perception. Stay in this state for at least 10 minutes, simply observing any sensations or insights that arise. When practiced regularly, this technique can strengthen your connection to the third eye and increase your sensitivity to the subtleties of reality. Another powerful technique is active visualization. Close your eyes and imagine a beam of violet light entering through the top of your head and focusing on your third eye. This light activates your perception and dissolves energy blockages. Some people report sensations of tingling or slight pressure on their forehead. When practicing this technique, signs that the energy center is being stimulated. Although awakening the third eye is a fascinating process, it must be done in balance. Some people, when intensifying practices without proper emotional and mental preparation, may experience discomfort, confusion, or even hallucinations. This happens because the third eye amplifies the perception of reality, and not everyone is ready for such a sudden expansion. Therefore, the key is harmony. Grounding practices like walking in nature, maintaining a healthy diet, and balancing the lower chakras are essential to ensure the awakening occurs smoothly and safely. If the observer effect shows us that consciousness influences matter, and the third eye expands this perception, then an essential question arises. Is there a fixed and objective reality, or is everything we experience a construction of our mind? To understand this question, we first need to differentiate between two fundamental concepts: subjective reality and objective reality. Objective reality is that which exists independently of individual perception. These are the facts, the laws of nature, what can be measured and scientifically proven. Gravity, for example, is an objective phenomenon. It acts on all of us, regardless of what we believe. Subjective reality, on the other hand, is shaped by individual perception. It involves beliefs, emotions, and interpretations of reality. Two people may go through the same event, but experience it completely differently. A simple example: imagine two people listening to the same song. For one, the melody might bring happy memories. For the other, it might stir sadness. The external event is the same, but the internal experience is unique to each individual. The physicist John Wheeler, one of the great names in quantum mechanics, proposed the idea of the participatory universe, a theory that suggests the universe is not something that simply exists, but something that manifests as it is observed. This means that, on a fundamental level, reality may be more malleable than we imagine. This directly connects with the power of the third eye and the observer effect. When we expand our perception and consciously focus our attention, we begin to notice patterns that were previously hidden. Our mind starts to give meaning to events that, for others, might seem random. This is where Carl Jung's concept of synchronicity comes in, where events that appear unrelated can have a deep meaning when viewed through the lens of expanded consciousness. While there are natural laws that govern the physical universe, our individual experience is heavily influenced by how we choose to interpret it. People who cultivate positive and intentional thoughts often report attracting more opportunities, while those who live trapped in negative patterns seem to perpetuate cycles of difficulty. This means that although we can't change all external circumstances, we have immense power over how these circumstances manifest in our lives. The answer might lie in quantum mechanics and the intriguing concept of superposition, a state where all possibilities coexist until consciousness intervenes and chooses one of them. This phenomenon challenges our traditional understanding of reality and leads us to an even deeper question: what is reality before it is observed? Quantum physics teaches us that at the subatomic level, particles are not in a fixed location until they are observed. Instead, they exist as a wave of probabilities, a field where multiple states are possible simultaneously. This phenomenon is described by the principle of superposition, which suggests that before observation, reality is not fixed. It is a field of infinite potentials. The theoretical physicist John von Neumann proposed that the conscious mind is the factor that causes the wave of possibilities to collapse into a single reality. In other words, your attention and intention are the forces that determine which version of reality you experience. This concept not only reinforces the idea that consciousness is fundamental, but also suggests that you have more control over your reality than you might think. This is where science meets spirituality. Many mystical traditions, such as Vedanta, Buddhism, and Hermeticism, have been teaching for millennia that what you focus on, you attract. Quantum physics seems to be validating this ancient wisdom, showing that conscious intention can be understood as a mechanism that directs which reality will collapse from the field of possibilities. But how exactly does intention influence reality? The key is coherence. If you maintain a clear, emotionally charged, and consistent focus on a goal, the probability that it will manifest increases significantly. But there's a crucial detail. Reality doesn't respond only to superficial desires. The intention needs to be aligned with your deep internal beliefs. For example, if you wish for prosperity, but deep down believe you don't deserve it, or that money is hard to obtain, what will collapse in your experience will be scarcity. Now, if the quantum field is shaped by consciousness and your mind can influence this process, how can we use this knowledge practically? This is where the third eye comes in, considered by many spiritual traditions as the access channel to perception beyond the physical. The third eye, associated with the pineal gland, may be the key to accessing and directing interaction with the quantum field. Through practices like meditation, visualization, and mindfulness, it's possible to activate this internal antenna and tune into the higher frequencies of reality. This not only enhances your ability to perceive the invisible, but also to manifest intentions with greater clarity and precision. You are not merely an observer of reality, you are an active participant in its creation. By understanding how consciousness interacts with the quantum field and developing tools like the third eye, you can learn to consciously and intentionally shape your life experience. The third eye is directly linked to how we process subtle frequencies. In many spiritual traditions, it is described as a portal to higher dimensions, capable of picking up vibrations that escape the five common senses. But for it to function properly, its energy needs to be balanced. Here are some energy alignment practices: sound frequencies and mantras. Sound has a direct impact on the vibration of the body and mind. Some specific frequencies, like 432 Hz and 936 Hz, are known to stimulate the activation of the third eye. Chanting or repeating mantras such as OM can also help harmonize this energy center. Brainwaves and meditative states. Research on brainwaves shows that deep meditation states generate alpha and theta waves, which are associated with intuition and expanded perception. This means that by practicing meditation regularly, you train your brain to operate in a state of greater receptivity. Decalcification of the pineal gland. The pineal gland, often associated with the third eye, can be harmed by toxins found in food and the environment, like fluoride. Reducing exposure to these substances and consuming foods rich in antioxidants can help revitalize the structure. Millions of people around the world report transformative experiences after activating their third eye. These are stories of heightened intuition, inexplicable synchronicities, and even visions that defy conventional logic. People who practice deep meditation, visualization techniques, and exercises for activating the third eye often report a shift in their perception of reality. Some describe a boost in mental clarity and a feeling of connection to something greater. Others talk about vivid, premonitory dreams as if they had access to information before events even occurred. There are also those who experience visual phenomena, like flashes of light, intense colors, and geometric shapes during meditative states. In some spiritual traditions, this is seen as a sign that perception is expanding beyond the physical senses, accessing higher dimensions of consciousness. Many people report a deep sense of peace and purpose after the awakening of the third eye, as if they could see life from a broader perspective, no longer getting so caught up in daily worries. This aligns with scientific studies on the benefits of meditation, which show that mindfulness and introspection practices can reduce anxiety, improve focus, and strengthen emotional resilience. However, not all experiences are positive. Some people report moments of confusion or extreme sensitivity, especially when the awakening happens abruptly. This occurs because activating the third eye can expose internal patterns, limiting beliefs, and repressed emotions. That's why balance and mental preparation are crucial in this process. Despite the numerous inspiring reports, it's also important to maintain a critical perspective. In some esoteric communities, there's a tendency to romanticize spiritual awakening, promising supernatural powers or extraordinary abilities. While the third eye can expand perception, it doesn't negate the laws of physics or turn someone into an all-knowing being. Therefore, it's essential to differentiate between legitimate experiences and distortions caused by unrealistic expectations or even psychological influences. If there's one common pattern in all these experiences, it's that the awakening of the third eye seems to deepen the connection with one's own consciousness and with the world around. People who undergo this process report an increase in intuition, mental clarity, and self-understanding. Now that we understand the impact of the observer effect and the power of the third eye, the most important question is, how can we apply this knowledge in our daily lives? Theory alone isn't enough. The real power lies in the practice. If you want to move beyond theory and transform your reality in a practical way, join the Quantum Thinking Challenge. Over 21 days, you'll learn powerful techniques to train your mind, activate your perception, and consciously shape your life experience. Check the first pinned comment. Some of the most effective tools for awakening your perception and consciously shaping your reality involve meditation, self-observation, and creative projection. Meditation is one of the most powerful methods to develop self-observation and activate the third eye. When you close your eyes and turn your attention inward, you begin to notice thoughts, emotions, and patterns that were previously unnoticed. This process strengthens self-awareness and sharpens your perception of the synchronicities in reality. In addition to meditation, keeping an observation journal is a valuable tool for identifying hidden patterns in reality. Often, we don't notice the synchronicities and signs the universe sends us because we're distracted by our routines. The simple act of recording daily perceptions helps train the mind to recognize these events more clearly. By writing down moments of coincidences, strong intuitions, or repetitive patterns, you begin to see connections that were previously invisible. After a few weeks of practice, analyzing these notes can reveal surprising trends in how your consciousness interacts with the world around you. Another essential technique to explore the observer effect is creative projection, which involves clearly visualizing a desire as if it's already a reality. This technique not only directs attention toward a specific intention, but also conditions the mind to accept this goal as possible. To practice it, simply choose a specific goal and visualize in as much detail as possible the exact moment it becomes a reality. The secret is to incorporate the corresponding emotion, because the brain can't tell the difference between a real experience and an imagined one with intense emotion. This practice is used by high-performance athletes, successful entrepreneurs, and spiritual practitioners who want to shape their realities more consciously. Beyond formal practices, the simple decision to be more present in the moment can transform the way you perceive reality. Paying full attention to every detail in daily life, from a conversation to the simple act of walking, makes small signs, gestures, and hidden patterns become more evident. Conscious observation turns the ordinary into the extraordinary, intensifying your connection with the universe and allowing synchronicities to be recognized more frequently. With dedication, these tools can expand your perception, strengthen your intuition, and help you consciously shape your reality. The awakening of the third eye is not a supernatural mystical event, but a process of self-discovery. When you begin to observe your own mind, your thought patterns, and the subtleties of reality, something shifts inside you. Consciousness expands, intuition becomes clearer, and the world around you starts reflecting this new inner state. This explains why people who cultivate a positive and intentional mindset often experience more synchronicities and opportunities. However, this knowledge comes with responsibility. If our thoughts, emotions, and intentions have the power to shape our reality, we need to use them wisely. The awakening of consciousness is not just about reaching elevated states of perception, but also about applying this perception in an ethical and balanced way. If you've made it this far, it means you're ready to look beyond the veil of conventional reality and explore your true potential. Now, the next step is to apply this knowledge in your daily life. Try the practices we've shared, refine your perception, and see for yourself the effects this can have on your life. And remember, every moment, with every thought and every intention, you're interacting with the infinite field of possibilities. The question is, which reality will you choose to collapse? If this content resonated with you, share your experience in the comments and continue this journey of self-knowledge. Your awakening has already begun, and reality is now in your hands.